First up, as I said, a man who has provided us with some real entertainment over the last 20 years in the saddle. He's had some great days as well, none greater than this.
As the leaders make their journey down then towards the second last, and over out in front, Carruthers with great endeavour continuing to close all the time on the inside as they race down towards the final fence. Planet of Sound is still there as well. They're racing down towards the last, and it's Carruthers on the near side who's just about in front. Carruthers over from great endeavour as they set off up the run-in, and it's Carruthers, despite a couple of mistakes early on in the race, who's charging up the run-in. Planet of Sound and great endeavour are giving a vain pursuit, but driven out towards the line. And out in front, Carruthers, a famous success for the Oaksey family, and Mattie Batchelor, partners a Hennessy winner.
That career and all those great moments are now in the rearview mirror for my guest today, Mattie Batchelor, who joins us here in the Luck on Sunday studio. Morning.
Morning.
How do you feel?
Yeah, good, yeah. I mean, most people think I should have retired about 5-6 years ago, Nick, and most people thought I had. But, yeah, I just thought I'd make it official. And, yeah, it's one of those things. It's very hard to let go of doing something that you're absolutely passionate about and love. And unlike like your Rubies and McCoys, they can go out at the top of the game. And you always think that you have more to give, and you're always hoping for another good horse to come along, and you think, oh, he could win, this could win, she could win. And yeah, but sometimes it's time to wave the white flag.
Is that how you feel? Do you feel like you've raised the white flag?
Yeah, I have, yeah. I mean, I'm having trouble with my hip, that's another story, and I feel like, I mean, I'm still confident that I could go out there and compete with whoever, but I don't think I could go out there now on a level playing field because I am being restricted. And so that's when, like, I was schooling a juvenile about a month ago for Camilla Poulton. I was schooling him over hurdles, over poles, liked him, and they was happy enough to give me the ride. And it was running at Fontwell. They say it runs at Fontwell. And I said, do you know what? I said, put someone else on it. I've known him for years. I've rode him some nice winners. I said, look, I don't want to go out there and be a bit of a fraud and do the horse injustice. So I said, let someone else ride it. It ran at Fontwell, ran okay, and then it came out and won at Sandown. And as a jockey, if you see a horse that you're involved with and you see it win, you're like, you start chucking things that they tell you and you get wound up. And it was the first time that I'd watched a win, and I was pleased for them, and I was pleased that I was involved and schooled it and like that. Mm-hmm. And so I was more pleased that it had won for them. It didn't really bug me as much as it should have done.
So was that the moment you realised that fire in your belly was gone or was going?
The fire in the belly has never gone. It's still there. Mm. But physically, I know I can't anymore. So that's... Listen, the fire's... It's surprised it's not coming out now. It's burning better than ever. But... You have to know when you know.
When do you think you were at your best?
My best.
I delivered it with a straight face, to be fair.
Listen, I forged a career. I'm very proud of what I've done, and I was lucky enough, very lucky and fortunate enough, to get on some good horses, Nick, and they took me to some good places. And yes, the good horses, the very good horses, are a lot easier to ride. But I've won on horses that probably didn't deserve to win. Mm-hmm. So I always went out there and gave it 110%. And I was all right. I got the job done. If people thought their horse would win, I don't think they sort of said, oh, we're not putting him on it because I could do the job, I think. I hope.
When did this job become something you wanted to do?
It's weird. I started really late. I mean, I was born and bred in Brighton. Like, I am a proper townie. And literally, my parents' house was probably 400 yards from Brighton racecourse, out my front door. But I always used to go out the back door, to school, up at school, back from school, playing football in the street, going out on bikes. Never had any inkling that there was a racecourse literally on my doorstep. And we had family in Ireland, we used to go over there for Christmases and stay over there. And we was over there, we didn't know what to do, and said, oh, we're going to go horse riding. I was like, yeah, okay, let's go. So we all went, got on the horse, riding around like through this field and like even cantering. I was like, gosh, I love this. And then the man who took us out, he said, you're a bit of a natural, but how wrong he was. I think he just wanted me to come back the next day to pay for another ride. He said, oh, you could be a jockey. I was like, well, what's that? And he explained, and then, I'll give that a go and come back. And unbeknown to me at the time, Gary Moore's dad, Charlie Moore, used to literally train right across from the mile start at Brighton. So went up there and got a Saturday job and started mucking out, and yeah.
Now, Charlie Moore now is, well, for anyone who's a lot younger than us, is just the stuff of legend. No one really remembers him. I mean, you give me an insight as to what it was like going up there and riding out as a young kid.
It was just a great footing, you know. You'd go. I only started sort of mucking out on a Saturday and Sunday, and then of course I was like, oh, I don't like the lessons at school today. I went up and started going up in the week, and yeah, just started mucking out. And then they started teaching me to ride on the pony called Clute, and lucky enough for me, the kids were still young then, so sort of. And then Gary came down from Epsom and just sort of lucky enough gave me his time and helped me sort of progress and teach me. And yeah, I mean, I've always said it, I'll be forever grateful for them for giving me opportunities. He gave me my first winner at Windsor, and I was lucky enough, he had a nice horse years ago called Quakersfield that won, well, it was the 4-year-old, the Glenlivet. Absolutely hosed up in that. I was lucky to ride that over hurdles, over fences. So he gave me opportunities. And he also got me agent in Dave Roberts, which for any young jockey, and he was the man to be with.
So I know you were laughing about it earlier on, but was there a moment early in your career when you really started kicking on for Gary, where you thought, yeah, I'm going to really make it. I'm going to make it all the way?
I don't think. Do you know what? I don't think that ever really crossed my mind, because I had. You sort of had people saying, oh, you'll be all right, you'll be riding at the local tracks, Plumpton, Fontwells and places like that. You'll probably make an all right living about and sort of go from there. Well, OK, fair enough. And then the more I started riding for Gary gave me some winners. And then it was just by chance, well, not by chance, I had a good agent. And Henrietta Knight wanted to claim 5 of a horse running at Newbury. You'll know the horse called Heart. And so Dave said, look, I've got young Mattie Batchelor, and so went to Newbury. I think it was a 5-runner race, and they was all riding like the Fitzgerald, Dunwoody, and anyway, she won. And I don't know, Hen just sort of took to me, and like in the old days there, I wrote to the owners and said thanks for the ride. And funny enough, the owner was Chris Brasher, who was part of the 4-minute mile with Roger Bannister. So wrote them a letter. It was fine, and wrote it a couple more times, and then Hen said, oh, you come in and start riding out for us. And that's where I learnt more as well, because like Yogi Bryson used to come in and help school the youngsters' horses and started teaching me, helping me. I also used to go to John Frankham's house. He used to help me sit down with my videos and I was just trying to better myself, really. And yeah, it sort of took me to another level, because you see you're riding for Henrietta Knight. So yeah, I've got a few nice rides through Dave and a few spares, and then the sort of Bradstocks was running. They had run at Fontwell one day, and I think someone had got injured, so the valets went out and said, "Oh, I've got Andrew Thornton, Mattie Batch," and like Mattie Batch, I haven't got a clue who he is. So Andrew Thornton ended up riding it, and I think it ran all right.
Did they want someone more stylish?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Yeah, a lot more stylish, yeah. And they came back, and I don't think he rode it well. And Sarah was unhappy, which is quite usual for Sarah. Only joking, Sarah. And so it ran in a couple of weeks at Newbury. And then Dave mentioned me again, and they said, oh, someone mentioned us to him at Fontwell, so they let me ride it. A horse called Tambo at Newbury. It ran OK. And then, yeah, just started to forge the relationship with them. And
then you got your Cheltenham Festival winner with King Harold.
Yeah,
which you lost and then got back again.
That was, I mean, King Harold, he'd done all right over hurdles, and then started jumping fences, and he was so clumsy. He could jump he was phenomenal, but he was just prone to, I don't know if he just sort of lost concentration or, so I rode him first time out over fences at Newbury and he fell. So the owner said, right, I want someone else. Then Andrew Tinkler rode him at Plumpton, and he was coming to win at Plumpton. He was coming down to the second last, went down to the last, it might have been the second last or the last, and gone again. So 2 Fs by his name. So then they said, right, we're sending him up to Newcastle. So I was like, it didn't bother me where you were sending him. Like, the owner didn't want me, that was it. It was like, he's not riding it. So, so of course, he's gone to Newcastle. So, of course, you've got that sort of north-south divide. So all the northern jockeys have seen
FF.
2 Fs.
I don't think so.
And they've seen 2 Fs and they said no. So Sarah said, you can ride it. I went, oh, thanks very much. And he ran well, finished second, then he ran at Newbury. And then, yeah, it was... And even when he won at the festival, the week before, we'd had a session with Yogi Breisner just to sort of sharpen him up. And he was absolutely foot perfect, although he nearly did slip on the bend, first bend coming round. And then he nearly tripped over the last. And then...
And you lost your irons? Lost
my irons, kicked one out, and then got me a Leicester. Ride of the year.
What did you think of that? I always think those rides of the year are interesting because it's always when something dramatic's happened or unusual that's normally completely beyond the jockey's control, like when Thornton's reins broke on Kingston. Right, what else was he supposed to do?
Exactly. You know? It's just instinct kicks in. I didn't have time to get my iron back, which is one of the hardest things to do because the iron's swinging as well. So it's all right, I've just got to kick the other foot out. And lucky enough for me, he had a very good engine, like first and foremost. And when I kicked the irons out and he went again, he went away from Lac Dudel and he powered up the hill. But he had a proper engine. We rode in a novice chase round Wetherby. It was me and Carlo Wenning, and he was on Ollie McGurn, and he could go some Ollie McGurn. Yeah. And we were going around Wetherby upsides because Sarah was like, you've got to make the run in. And
all of them made the running.
Most of them, yeah, exactly. Yeah. They did. That was their way. And I was at the start, and Carl said, "Oh, I'm making the run." I said, "What's that, I?" He said, "Well, what?" I went, "Carlos," I said, "I've got to make the running." I said, "It's more than my job's worth." We've gone round Wetherby. Well, it was like we was in the champion chase. All Carlo Williams was going, batch, we're going to... And then he won in the end, finished second. He went, oh my God, he said, how quick did we go there? I said, yeah, but I said, look how far clear we are from the rest. So we knew we had a couple of nice ones then.
And your relationship with the Bradstocks was obviously quite an interesting one. Tell me a little bit about what that whole setup was like and how you kind of slotted into it.
I mean, I'd like to say I'd sort of slot into most places, but they gave me my best days of my career. And yeah, they were sort of people you'd go and ride out, and like Sarah, love her, obviously John Oakesy was her dad, and like she ruled the roost sort of thing, and there was some colourful language in the morning sometimes, and it was an experience.
But one that you were more than up to.
Oh, definitely, yes, yeah. I used to go up there. They never wanted you in every week, but when they rang you and said, can you come up and school? Normally when you'd organise to ride out somewhere else the next morning, but they'd ring you at 9 o'clock at night and say, can you come up? So yeah, that's not a problem, yeah. So I used to go up and school the horses. But listen, they always bought nice horses and had nice horses. And I mean, I remember riding Carruthers' mum, Plaid Maid, round Newbury. Like, she was tiny, she carried 11, 12 and still finished third. I think McCoy was the only one to win on her. She was as tough as they come. But yeah, they always produce nice ones.
And Carruthers, that race we showed at the beginning there, the Hennessy back in 2011, it was such a popular victory. The whole of the sport really warming to the success, not just for you, but also for the owner, Lord Oakesy, who was a hugely towering figure, really, in racing. Were you aware of the significance of this at the time?
Yeah, of course, Lord Oakesy had won a Hennessy many years previous. And it was a funny sort of race, not the race in general. It was like, because the time before, Carruthers actually ran at Cheltenham, and I'd got jocked off. I hadn't ridden him then, because the season before, he'd he hadn't had the best of seasons. He was just below par. He didn't look right in himself, and he just wasn't himself. And of course, new run of the season, the owner said, "Oh, we want to put someone else on him." Sarah rang me up and said, "Look, the owners." I said, "Okay, yeah." And Noel Feely rode it.
Whatever happened to him?
Who?
Noel Feely.
Oh, I know, yeah, he's such an underachiever. No, I mean, yes, absolutely phenomenal rider, great lad. And of course, come the Hennessy, he was asked to ride it first and foremost, but he'd got a ride for Paul Nicholls and Michel Le Bon, I think. And so Sarah had actually rung me up and said, I think it was on the Tuesday, said, "Who do you think we should to get to ride Carruthers?" And I said, "Well," I said, "I'm not being funny, Sarah." I said, I think you should give me a try. Here's an idea. Well, anyway, it all turned out good in the end, yeah. So
how do you answer that? What was she expecting you to say? Yeah, here's Dickie Johnson's
For
number.
the first time, I think I actually swore at Sarah down the phone. But yeah, fair play.
You don't think it was a test of your...
No, I don't think it
commitment?
was. No, I think but I had already been jocked off it, so there was... I don't think they wanted me back on it, and I don't know. I think there was, because it was a big syndicate. There may well have been a few people that really still didn't want me to ride it, even though I was jocked up on it. And probably, you know what? That's why, and I think that's what won me the Hennessy, because I went out there, and they was like, "Well, you've got a really good chance. If it hadn't won." They was like, "Oh, it wouldn't have won anyway because Mattie was on it." And so I sort of went out there with the attitude like, you know what, I've got nothing to lose. I've got another ride on a horse that's given me some great days. And we went out there, and as usual, there was a good pace in the Hennessy, which sort of, he wasn't the quickest, just caught him out. He made a couple of little mistakes, early doors down the back, and then it was like, right, I've got to get him back up the front, and I absolutely rode the head off him to get him up there. Whereas I think if another jockey who didn't know him might not have done that. And once we got in front and in the rhythm, he was brilliant. And I thought, jumping the last, you're always in the back of the mind. Obviously, you go out there and you're like, well, I know Great Endeavour's going to be ridden quietly by Timmy, because he was a doubtful stayer. So I thought he's going to be coming as late as he did. And you could see him out the corner of your eye, but yeah, clearly he didn't stay. And so, yeah, he powered on and won well.
And then, of course, your association began with Coney Gree, the half-brother. Now, you got jocked off Coney Gree, and you did get jocked off, and that was that.
Yeah.
When you reflect on that period now, is there anything you could have done to avoid that or not? Or do you think that was just the passage of time, trainers just changing their habits? What went wrong?
Yeah, that was just the passage of time. I think Coney Gree actually had won the bumper the week before the Hennessy.
Right.
At Uttoxeter. And then, so that was that. He won the Hennessy Carruthers. Then he ran in a couple of bumpers. Then he had a break, come back, ran in a hurdle race at Uttoxeter. Novice hurdle race at Uttoxeter, Coney Gree. And he won that. And that was one of the moments in racing. I turned into the straight at Uttoxeter. And I thought, oh my God, Batch, you have made the biggest mistake. I thought I'd gone way. I thought there must be another circuit left, because I've gone to the third last, jumped it, and you're always aware because you can hear the other horses jumping the hurdles. I didn't hear a thing. It was silent, and I've looked round. I'm like,
can you actually see anything else when you look round?
Yeah. Well, as I looked round, I was like, oh, I am miles clear. I was like, oh, what an idiot. I thought, I've got to go round again. So I don't think I jumped a twig of the last 3 hurdles, because all I'm thinking, I'm trying to count the hurdles I've jumped in the back of my head, thinking, no, I'm right. And it's only because I was coming to the last, I heard the commentator say, and as he comes to the last, I was like, oh, because and I thought, oh, he is a proper horse.
Proper machine.
Yeah, proper machine, yeah.
And you went to Cheltenham on it, didn't you?
Went to Cheltenham, and at the time, Sarah Selby run at Cheltenham in a Grade 2, and I think this is it. That might have been the second one he went after. Ibel, that's that, Ibel?
It is.
Second, yeah. So we went to Cheltenham. It's like, this is a big step up, and yeah, the way he just travelled round so nicely. It was tough old ground. I remember the commentator saying, because I used to make the run, well, he made the run in, they said, oh, I don't know if Mattie's going a bit too quick here. But, like, for him, it felt like I was just hacking. And then when I pressed the button, and then when he went back again, and the second Grade 2 he won there, again, you go there with confidence because you know he's a good horse. And I thought, I might have told you the day it was racing, I thought it was a lesser race than he'd already won, like 3 weeks before. And he'd done the same again. And that was on, and funny enough, that was the time I appreciated the difference in the new course and the old course at Cheltenham, because I'd never, obviously I'd rode at Cheltenham festivals, and sometimes you go to Cheltenham festivals and you're just making up numbers, and it's not a nice place to be if you're making up numbers. You'll never get into 2 out and still travelling, you're off the bridle. So to ride on the old course first time, and then second course, the new course the second time, I remember Carla Willing, and he said, right, remember you're on the new course this time? I said, yeah. I said, I won't kick as early as I did the last time. He said, yeah. He said, as long as you know. And again, because the time before, I think I kicked sort of probably 2 out, in between 3 and 2. And this time just held on to him a bit longer, because the running is so much longer. And that's the first time, and I'd had a few rides at Cheltenham, and that was the first time I appreciated the difference in the old and the new course.
And the time you were beaten by at Fisher's Cross and the new one, so it's not as though they were bad horses.
No, that's right. And and do you know what? He just didn't feel. I got off him on the second Grade 2, and I said to Sarah, I said, look, we've done all we had to do. We could, I think that was December. It was December. And I said, look, we can go straight to Cheltenham now. We don't need to sort of come back here. But Sarah said, well, we're going to run in the January. And again, it was a good run. He finished 3rd, but I said, I just don't think he felt as good as the previous 2 runs, where he just lost a bit or he's just gone over the top. But yeah, but he still ran a great race.
And that was it for you and him?
Yeah, and then he sort of, I think after that, I don't know if he did go to Cheltenham. I think he had the injury, I'm not sure what it was. And then, of course, all the other horses in the yard, they wasn't running great, and things weren't really happening. They didn't have a lot of winners, and like anything, they wanted a change. And listen, that's how racing goes. And it is. I mean, they gave me the greatest days in racing. So it's like, and I'm not silly. I was that stage of my career. I know how racing works. That times change and people move on, and I'd still. She rang me up the other day and congratulated me. I'll be forever grateful for what they've done. It's like the only person to say I rode a Cheltenham Gold Cup winner, but actually in the Gold Cup. I rode 2 actually. I rode Best Mate as well.
What was he like to ride?
Annoying.
Was he?
Yeah, he was very busy. He was a very busy horse. He never gave himself like sort of 5 minutes rest. He would jig jog everywhere, but that was him. But he was very talented.
And given what you were saying to me earlier on about how when you watched that juvenile hurdler last month and you didn't feel any angst about it, you were just happy for Connections.
Yeah.
I mean, that surely, when you see Coney Gree winning the Gold Cup, is the ultimate negative to that, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you would say that, but I've never watched it.
Really?
It's. Do you know what? It's people. Funny enough, on the Monday, I drove the horse box to Chelmsford I was working for Sheena West at the time. She had a run at Chelmsford, so I drove the box to Chelmsford and saw some of them. And there's that bloke who should have rode a Gold Cup winner, and it was like, well, not really, because no, because I'd never rode him over fences in his career, Nick. It was like I'd finished with them long before that, so it wasn't like I was jocked off it 3 weeks before. I'd never rode him over his chase career, but I also work at Cheltenham, so I'm there all week. Friday, I normally watch the Gold Cup, and then I'll leave. And then, of course, it rained all morning Friday morning, and I knew he would love it. And I said, right, I'm watching a couple of races. I said, I'm going. I said, I don't really want to be here because I think I know what's going to happen. And of course, I was driving home and listening to the radio, and yeah, I mean, I was driving home and heard it win, and it was like, do you know what? Yeah, it's to come that close to actually ride a Gold Cup winner and not to be on him in the Blue Ribbon event. Yeah, it is hard to take. But do you know what? Reality soon kicks in. I got home that day, opened the door. My daughter was only young, and she ran up. She hadn't seen me all week. She was just pleased to see me, and she's like, do you know what? She hasn't got a clue that I've just missed out. Not missed out, but I hadn't Gold Cup horse, and if she was just pleased to see her dad, and it was like, do you know what? That's what all that matters. It doesn't. It's a race round a field, and that I was never going to ride in or never ride him in it anyway. So what's the point in beating yourself up, really? It's you just have to move on.
And on that note, a lovely note in many ways, we will move on. You're going to stay with us for a little bit, but for the moment, Mattie Batchelor, thank you very much. And
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.